Is here with us in studio this morning to talk about Hillary Clinton's testimony before that Benghazi committee today. He's a columnist for The Hill. He's a former White House special counsel for the Clinton administration from 96 to 98. But clarify for our viewers this morning, what's your relationship with Hillary Clinton and your role here today?
The easiest way to tell a long story is that I knew Hillary when her last name was Rodham. We were in Yale Law School together, and it's before actually Bill Clinton came to Yale Law School. He was still on his roads. So I was there in my last year. She was in her first year, and we became close friends ever since.
And so you are a friend. Are you officially with the campaign?
Not at all. I think they're doing a great job, and I think she will be our next president. But I'm very happy to just speak as a friend without authority, not speaking for her, just giving my own observations.
Are you unofficially communicating with her, giving her advice?
I unofficially get facts from an organization called Correct the Record. And once in a while, I will call a campaign to be sure that I'm accurate. But the answer is no, I do not give her advice except once in a while. I have a 17-year-old son who has loved her since he's, I think, 9 months old. And we've seen her recently in New Hampshire.
And so the New York Times put out a story yesterday that groups supportive of Hillary Clinton were circulating talking points ahead of the testimony today before the Select Committee. Did you receive those talking points? I
received a fact sheet. I hate the expression talking points, so forgive me for talking points imply rhetoric and spin. The only thing, as you will hear me today, I do facts that are not in dispute. Then it's reasonable for Republicans or Democrats to disagree about the interpretation of facts. So I find the Correct the Record organization facts very helpful. When I get adjectives and adverbs, not helpful.
We'll get to the testimony today and the Select Committee's investigation, but ahead of her appearance this morning in an hour and a half, Vice President Joe Biden announces last night he's not going to seek the presidency in 2016. What do you make of that decision by him?
Well, first of all, every decision that's that important and that personal, especially given what he and his family have been through with the tragic loss of his son, is right for him. And I agonized, known Senator Biden since he was first elected. I'm dating myself back in 1972 when I first met him in 1973. So he's a great man and a good man. I was very confused by how long it took him to make the decision. But I think he had to search his soul about whether he was really ready to do a very difficult effort like running for president. So I respect his decision. This
is USA Today. Now that Biden's bowed out, Clinton strengthens grip, it says, on the nomination. And they write in here that they're quoting a political scientist, political expert at Princeton University, saying she's been waiting for the all systems go. Without Biden running, she can now concentrate all her firepower on co-opting Bernie Sanders' message and focusing voter attention on the fact that she's the one who can defeat the Republican nominee.
Well, that's an opinion, and it's not bad opinion. That opinion is as good as my opinion, but it happens to be not based on facts. She has not changed her strategy one iota, whether Vice President Biden runs or not, or ran or not. She has an extensive, maybe the best field organization prior to the beginning of the primaries of any that I've seen, and I've been involved in presidential politics for 40 years. So she is extremely well positioned to be our nominee, but having said that, Bernie Sanders has run a great race. I admire him greatly. We have always expected competition, certainly in the first two, Iowa and New Hampshire. And if Vice President Biden had run, we would have had even better competition. I think Hillary Clinton still would have been our nominee.
This is from the Boston Globe. You mentioned Bernie Sanders. They write, New Hampshire Democrats find a Democratic Socialist president acceptable. More than 6 in 10 likely voters in New Hampshire's first in the nation Democrat presidential primary next year say it would be acceptable to have a Democratic Socialist president of the United States.
So, look, I'm going to be a little critical of the media, even though I'm a frustrated journalist, always wanted to be a journalist. Labels are just labels. What is a Democratic Socialist? That's why I oppose adverbs and adjectives and characterizations. I oppose them. What are the facts about Bernie Sanders? What are his positions on issues? Forget about putting a label on them. And they're pretty much in the mainstream of the Democratic Party. There are disagreements between Secretary Clinton and Senator Sanders, and they had a great debate about those disagreements. But we're really close compared to the Republicans. But if you ask me about positions on issues, I'll tell you whether I agree or disagree. To label Bernie Sanders as a socialist, democratic socialist, those labels don't mean anything to me. I just look at facts.
Is he doing well in New Hampshire? I mean,
absolutely doing well. Because his issues, not the labels, are resonating with Democrats, progressive Democrats like me. I love Bernie Sanders' message. I have a niece in California who says feel the burn, even though I think she's supporting Hillary Clinton. We all admire the way Senator Sanders had stood up to the media and the debate and said, no, I'm not going to engage in attacks on irrelevant issues like emails. Let's talk about the issues. And I think the American people give Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton good marks for debating issues that they care about as opposed to just labeling.
Well, let's talk about the emails, the Benghazi Select Committee investigation. You wrote a piece for The Hill.
This morning.
This morning. You
I hope Trey Gowdy reads it.
3 questions Benghazi Republicans should ask and why they probably won't. What are the 3 questions?
Okay. Congressman Gowdy, every Republican, please tell me, or the audience today, why you won't ask these 3 questions. Question 1. Did you think that Secretary Clinton, in appointing an independent accountability review board right after the Benghazi tragedy, Thomas Pickering, a former UN ambassador under President Bush, Michael Mullen, a former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, neither of them partisan or leaning one way or another, came out with a report. They had 27 recommendations. They called the State Department's performance part of a systemic failure. Hillary Clinton published the report and accepted responsibility. My question that I think Trey Gowdy should ask, Secretary Clinton, why did you do that? And do you still think the recommendations will help prevent a future Benghazi? Second question, 7 congressional committees investigated thoroughly this entire Benghazi matter and tragedy for the last 2 years. 2 of them in the House of Representatives, controlled by Republicans, the House Intelligence Committee and the House Armed Services Committee. Let me repeat that. The House Intelligence Committee and the House Armed Services Committee came out with extensive reports finding no intelligence failures running up to the tragedy. Secondly, no stand-down order that caused the military not to rescue these 4 individuals who were killed. And third, and this is very important because it's the misinformation constantly repeated, no exploitation by the White House or the Secretary of the talking points. The actual phrase that was controversial, spontaneous demonstration triggered by anti-Muslim protests in Cairo, were written by the CIA and never changed in the 14 drafts of the talking points. So, Congressman Gowdy, will you ask Secretary Clinton, do you agree with the House Armed Services Committee and Intelligence Committee, my Republican colleagues, on all those issues? And the third question is there any relationship between the emails issue and the tragedy of Benghazi? Any relationship between the fact that you had 2 BlackBerries rather than 1 and your own private server? Does that have any relationship to the Benghazi tragedy? If he asks those 3 questions, he'll show me at least that he cares about the facts.
Chairman Trey Gowdy writing in USA Today on October 7th that the committee is breaking new ground. And he writes, perhaps our critics could live without the 41 new witnesses, 7 eyewitnesses, 50